And what I'm going to do to celebrate my 3,000 subscribers is I'm going to have a little giveaway. I'm going to start to do a challenge for you. This is going to be a hard challenge, but you're going to enjoy it, hopefully. Nicholas speaking, and welcome to this video. Nicholas speaking, and welcome to another video of the How to Beat series. In this video I'm going to do the opposite to what Nick taught you, which was how to win, and I'm going to teach you how to beat. So let's have another look at a different unit and see what we can come up with. Right, let's have a look at the Eldar Wave Serpents and see how we can beat it. Now, it's probably fair to say that this tank here is very nasty, and it's actually very difficult to beat. It's not impossible, it does have weaknesses, but first let's have a quick chat about it. So the first thing to note is that this tank, in its basic configuration, with the most basic upgrades which most people will take, costs the Eldar player 135 points. So it's no Rhino, you know, it's going to do something, it's going to kill stuff, and it's going to be survivable. That's what the Eldar tanks are for. So you have to bear that in mind, so don't get too frustrated if you don't just destroy it like you do a Rhino. You know, it's not quite as easy to destroy, and that's something just to bear in mind, so don't get frustrated. Okay, so when you see the Wave Serpent in front of you with your enemy having one, then it's time to ask yourself a few questions, or indeed, if you're unsure, ask your opponent. What you need to find out, first of all, is, of course, what unit is in the tank, what guns it has, and what pieces of war gear it has. Pretty much 99% of the time, your opponent is going to have hollow fields, which gives them a +1 to cover save. And it's going to have scatter lasers, and the reason for taking scatter lasers, not only is it 4 shots, strength 6, they're twin linked, which basically means if you jinx, you know, they've got twice as many chances of getting a hit through, and not only that, it makes the energy shield twin linked as well from the laser lock. So that is more than likely the configuration, but it's worth making note, because it could be that your opponent is trying to save a few points, and maybe he's just got the bog standard gun on there. That could make quite a big difference, because that gun's only 24 inches. These scatter lasers are 36 inches, so it's worth finding out the range of the gun. Just give you that knowledge behind what the tank is capable of. Obviously they are very fast, so it's okay me saying, well, you know, stay out of range of the guns, and of course you've got a lot of movement with the Wave Serpents, but it's just worth noting, being aware, so you've got no surprises. And again, it's worth noting what is in the tank, because on this one I put Nick's Fire Dragon marker on there, so that's got Fire Dragons in. Now, obviously, if someone has Fire Dragons in there, they're going to be looking for two types of units. They're going to be looking to kill or destroy your tanks, or to destroy your Terminators, or your units that have AP2, a 2+ save, because they've got those AP1 guns. So it's worth bearing in mind, trying to work out what units are in the tanks, because that is going to change the way the Eldar player plays his tanks, and it also allows you to target priority which tanks you're actually going to go for. So I mentioned obviously the Jinx save, and the Jinx save has changed, and it's made these tanks incredibly survivable. So now they have a 4+ save, Jinx save. So bearing in mind that if you decide to shoot at a tank, your opponent has to decide whether he jinx or not before your guns go through. So you could say shoot 1 missile launcher at it, and if your opponent's jinx, that means the next turn he can only snap fire. Now that's regardless of whether you hit him or not with your missile launcher. So bear that in mind. Now of course Eldar are sneaky, so they will be trying to do other stuff. Now with the hollow fields, of course, they get +1 to cover save. That means if they're in the open, they automatically get a 6+ cover save. It also means that if they jinx, that cover save goes down to 3+. So if your opponent was able to hide this behind a piece of terrain, say something like that, where you can't actually see the front of the tank, you can only see the side. And as you can only see the side, but you're shooting at the front area, effectively they get +1 to cover saves. It'll be a 5+ cover save, 25% in cover, +1 cover save because you can't see the front, and then it will be a +1 to cover save for hollow fields. So that's a 3+ cover save in that position without having to jinx. So there's lots of Eldar trickery around to watch out for. Now obviously if you are in a position where you have 2 tanks to shoot at, one's got a cover save, the other one has to jinx to get a cover save, you want to shoot at the one that has to jinx, because when they jinx, obviously they are only snapshotting. And even though they're twin linked, they still then need 6s to hit you, which is obviously far, far better. Okay, so that's the sort of basics as such. It's just you know, assessing the situation, how to actually destroy these. Now obviously the best way to destroy tanks is going to be to glance them. You know, the penetration table really is just sort of it's pretty much gone. I mean, it's very, very difficult to actually destroy a tank now. But if you can get the hull points down, that's no job done. And it only has 3 hull points, so in actual fact it is the same hull points as a Rhino. The main thing that you have to bypass is obviously it is 12. There's 12 on the front and on the sides. So you need a reasonable amount of strength. And of course the main problem that you have is that jinx save, because a 3+ save, you know, is very difficult to get through, especially when you've got to get 3 hits through or 3 wounds through to take those hull points down. There is a vulnerable area though. Like most tanks, the rear of the tank is armour 10, so it's actually very, very vulnerable at the back. Not only that, it only has 1 exit, and that is also at the back. So ideally, if you can get something which is going to be able to deep strike him, potentially at the rear of the tank, it's going to be far, far easier to destroy the tank. Obviously, once again, you've got to get through those hollow fields, so shooting isn't necessarily always the way. Ideally, if you can assault the tank, which sounds really odd, doesn't it? 7th edition, asking you to assault. But yeah, assaulting this tank is the way to go. That is how you destroy a Wave Serpent. You assault it. I mean, even your bog standard Space Marine, although it's strength 4, don't forget he has crack grenades. So you can hit him with, okay, it's only 1 attack, but it's going to be strength 6. So it's going to be a lot easier to get those hull points down. You've got a lot more chance. So yeah, assaulting the vehicle, especially the rear area, is where it is very, very vulnerable. Shooting, obviously it makes it easier to actually wound it. You still have to get through the hollow fields, but if you can get him to assault, and remember you don't have to assault the rear, you can assault the front and you still hit the rear of the tank. And that is the one thing that a Eldar player is going to be very, very fearful of. It's going to be very fearful of its rear, which is why in some cases you find it's right up against the board edge, protecting its rear. But again, if it's doing that, of course it's much further away from you. You can use distance to your advantage, etc. So yes, there's not, sadly, not a be and end all way to actually just blast this tank out to the sky. But I think the way to go is to make sure that you're totally aware of what the tank is capable of doing, what unit is inside and what that unit is capable of doing, so you can target priority and you can work out exactly where the tanks are going to be going during the course of the game. And then to try and target the rear if you get the opportunity, and assault, basically. If you have a chance to assault this vehicle, then do it. Okay, that's it for the Wave Serpent. Hopefully the video was useful to you. I'll see you in the next one.